everyone, welcome to another video of mine. My name is Maria Saren. It's been a long time, I know, I apologize. I had tons of things. I went to a event in Barcelona, a UFO Congress in Barcelona. I had lots of sessions, I had lots of work, I had lots of homework also from these things that I'm studying. So it's also been very tough times for me. So basically I've had to deal with a lot of negative beings that are the ones that I'm going to talk about in this video. So unfortunately for that matter, I haven't been able to make a video about it. Another video about sharing my experiences or my knowledge. So I apologize, but I'm back. So welcome to my channel again. Nice to meet you, all of the new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. I'm so happy that you are feeling that you're enjoying my interviews and my content. I appreciate you. So today it's gonna be a little longer video than the usual because it's gonna be a very tough topic to talk about. Okay, wait a moment. I think there was some sound. So anyways, so today is gonna be a video in which I'm gonna talk about very sensitive things, very uncomfortable truths, you know, that many people are going to have a lot of like belief systems being challenged, you know, because of the programming that, like, the worldwide programming that there has been so long in this since years, you know, so far already from these beings. So let's get into it. Straightforward. So the topic that I'm going to be talking about is the gray hybrid programs, specifically, the gray hybrid programs, the ones that are made with human DNA and gray DNA. And so to introduce you, so that firstly, before I give you my own perspectives, my own teachings, and I get to share my own experiences, I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to who they are, so that you get, if you're new to this, what I'm talking about, and also put things in the table so that we all start to, you know, kind of like see through the glass, if you know what I mean. So who are the gray hybrids? What are the gray hybrid programs about? So in the last century, I don't know about what year approximately, there was a personality within the UFO community that became notorious because he started channeling something unusual that wasn't known at the beginning, was not very popular at the moment, and it was the gray hybrid humans, specifically a being under the name of Bashar. Now, at the beginning, this individual started to share information about this being, like, you know, people started asking questions like, who are you? Like, what's your name? Where do you come from? What's your planet like? What kind of information do you have for us? And the kind of information that it will be imparted is that, you know, metaphysical teachings, spiritual guidance, etc., like general New Agey things, but also the story, or the, let's say, summary of who are these beings, beings, and how is that they are related and co-created in what it's called the gray hybrid programs. Basically, it was, what are the gray hybrid programs, what is going on, how is it is related to what's going on in the earth right now worldwide when it comes to the gray abduction scenarios, and what is our agenda or narrative, because they will never say agenda, of course, but they say, well, yeah, sometimes they said agenda. Anyways, so to summarize, Bashar is a gray hybrid human being from the future. So from the future, because time does not exist, time is not linear, everything is quantum, and 4-density beings can already travel through space and time. So he has passed the 3rd density, or the transition between the 3rd and the 4th density, which is basically where we are right now, approximately. So their race can time travel, they have that technology and that ability. So anyways, they came from the future, and they say that the Greys are actually a parallel future version of humanity that is under the threat of extinction. Why? Because they started to create, within their own civilization, dysgenic programs in which they will start to modify and manipulate their DNA in a way that they will cut out, literally, the genetic codes that will connect them with their human nature from their emotional body, from their senses, from their heart space, and will start to enhance the parts of their DNA that will enhance their psychic abilities, or their psyche in general, their IQ. And also will put so much focus and interest in developing technologies rather than saving the planet in terms of, like, you know, nature, which is, many species are endangered, and we're basically destroying nature for resources, for technology. So that's basically how they manifested themselves in a scenario, in a circumstance of extinction. because they, not only because they cut out that part of themselves that made them human and they destroy their own nature and environments and ecosystems, but also because in those genetic programs they will lose sexuality. Because, you know, when they cut out that human part, the emotions, the emotional chakra is a sacral chakra, is a chakra of sexuality, of the sexual organs. So basically, they cut that out too. They stop having sexuality. They cut out their sexual energy centers, their sexual energy, their sexual aspects, their sexual creator energy. Gosh. So they started, instead of reproducing, they started cloning themselves. Amazing, right? So, terrible. So because they started to cloning themselves and they lost their reproductive abilities, genetically their DNA became so like defective, you know, so bad, so basically just fucked up that the cloning in between themselves, the DNA recombinations in between themselves, it couldn't be just possible. Okay, it was just not working. So that's why they went into this state of extinction. So basically what they said is that these guys, because they found themselves at the face of extinction, they decided that they wanted to find viable DNA that were human, of course, because it will have to be compatible with their DNA and their akashic record systems that is embedded in their DNA, so that they will be able to save themselves from extinction and not die out. And so they tracked a planet, a version of Earth, in which they had the, let's say, agreements on a higher level, or let's say connections or karmic connections, let's say, so that these humans will be, or beings that will have these altruistic desires, it will be a combination of both, so that they will eventually be able to perform their abductions, they will be able to harvest and extract their genetic material from these abductees, and create these races of hybrid babies, of hybrid children, hybrids between alien, gray alien, and human DNA, to basically incarnate in those vessels and continue their evolution. But there's a lot of tea to spill in that. And I don't know if I'm going to go deep into that right now. I think that I'm going to leave it in for another video. I'm just going to summarize it. So they create these children, and supposedly they will survive that way. But what happens? What happens is that they say that was the plan, that was why we were being abducted, we were being fucked. Basically, we were being probed. I don't know if I even pronounce that word correctly, but you know what I mean, correct? And so we were just being extracted our own genetics, so that we will be creating this hybrid children, this race of hybrids, and they will save their species. Right. So until that point, there's a lot of red flags and there's a lot of tea to spill. So at first they say that that's it, and he started sharing like very deep like spiritual information, like teachings, you know, the glorious master guru teachings. And I say it like this because he ended up being a figure in the community that has been put in a pedestal, like most gurus, with glorious teachings. Because it's a great thing if somebody is a great teacher, okay, and has amazing teachings. I find that amazing, you know. I think we need more like those in the world. But my problem is when these beings are put in pedestals and they take the advantage that they are in pedestals to use it for their advantage, their self-outcomes, their selfish desires, and their own agenda. And this is the problem with the grey hybrid agendas. That it is not just a program so that the greys will save themselves and everybody will be happy and you know, happiness and joy and everything. No. They have a narrative that includes a passive invasion of our species, of our planet, so that we're basically replaced by another race. And I'm going to explain it to you. Okay, so up to this point, you will think, okay, so these beings, the most logical things that these beings that are being created by the hybrid programs is that they go to another planet, and they live there, and they have their own, you know, whatever life, and everything is solved, you know, okay, great, right? Wrong, mate. These children, what they started sharing is that, apart from that original narrative, single narrative, is that there is not just one hybrid race, but many races. Many generations of races, of hybrid races that they were creating, each one getting closer to the human DNA, to the human beings. Now, if one single race has already been created, which is the Sasani, and now the grey beings that supposedly were dying could incarnate in these vessels and basically save themselves and they're us and living on our planet happily and live like a perfect life, then why the heck? They need to do more generations of hybrids. Why they're doing more generations of hybrids, and why they're doing it so that each one gets closer and closer to the human structure, the human DNA structure, like closer genetically to humans. Well, That's the pivotal point. That's the key of all the big picture of this big puzzle of many pieces. Basically, to summarize it, they're doing this. I'm gonna start with the statement. They're doing this because they want to passively invade Earth. Because the Greys are not just beings who want one thing and that's it. They are selfish pieces of shit. They want everything. They know that a connection, a bond to a planet is highly beneficial to the evolution of a species. In fact, if a species is not bonded or connected to a planetary consciousness, it becomes damaged. Because ecosystems are a very complex structure of many different layers and fractals of consciousness, that in which it's dynamics, there's dynamics that involves many aspects of many consciousness from many density levels, so that each one reflects to each other their versions, their different layer versions of fractals, so that they can evolve, they can make energetic exchanges, which is interactions, and they can basically get the information needed so that they can make the next step in evolution. It's like a cycle, it's like a chain, it's like a mirroring, reflecting kind of system. It's a very complex thing. I'll explain it deeper one day, but it's basically that way. So that important is to have a bound to a planetary consciousness, because not only because the ecosystems are this intelligently designed by creation, so that it helps the evolution of the individual, but also because of all the dynamics within the fractals of all the thousands of consciousnesses of a species of many different densities that are in the planet, aligned with the other consciousness, the other planetary consciousness of that star system, that galaxy, then the center of the universe, and the whole system. It is a map of consciousness. Astrology is a science for that matter, like a pseudoscience for that matter, because it's all interconnected, and it gives you more opportunity for evolving for that matter, because it reflects aspects of consciousness. So that's why the Greys are these pieces of shit that they are trying to passively invade Earth, because they know how important is this connection to a planet. And you'll say, well, they have already their own connection to another planet, which is this planet called Sasani, which is where the Sasani, it's so similar, are living, right? So why specifically Earth? What's the point, Marina? Well, that's another question. The reason why they're so interested in Earth is because the Earth is a planetary consciousness bond that is written and embedded in their genetic structure, or in other terms, their akashic records. So all their cycles of energies, all of the cycles of evolution, matters have a lot of impact in terms of the evolution of consciousness and the opportunity of expansion for consciousness, for that matter, because they hold this great connection within their DNA. They hold many ties to Earth history. So that's why they loved so much to have Earth back, because they know how much they will benefit themselves from Earth. The problem is the next thing, and it's that they're trying to basically replace us, like basically kicks us out. So, and that's how we answer why they are creating different generations of hybrids, of human Grey hybrids. Why? Because the first generation of Grey human hybrids, which are the Sasani, which are the oldest, are 50% Grey, 50% human. This means that obviously they are neither part of the collective consciousness of the Greys, and they are neither part of the collective consciousness of humanity. So, it will only mean that they cannot basically live neither in the Grey's planet or in our planet, because it will be considered an invasion. It will be breaking the law of no interference. The next generation, more human, less Grey, but still not compatible with humans, which means that if they will come to this planet, it will be also considered an invasion, because they are not part of our collective consciousness. And if they're not part of our collective consciousness, as they are not native beings from Earth, as we are indigenous beings from Earth, even though we are starseeds or hybrids or indigos or whatever you want to call it, I'm talking about natives in terms of having been born on Earth. No matter if you're starseed or not, I mean person that has been born in Earth. They could never be allowed to come to this planet neither, because it will be considered an invasion, and it will create conflict and wars and everything. They will be breaking the law of no interference. So the next generation, again the same thing, and the next generation, until there is one who are called the Yaya, who are very similar, like cousins, but still not part of the collective consciousness. And then the latest race that has been created are the ones who are actually being created most recently in the Grey abduction scenarios, who are the Grey hybrid children. The hybrid children, they call it. All of them are Grey hybrid children, but they call them specifically the hybrid children. They call them like that. So these children are the ones who are assigned parents. The other species, let's say that they had their own evolution along time, like in years. Okay, I'm talking about years. So they decided, they observed that they couldn't leave, I don't know if they have their own planet or not, but they couldn't just basically get into Earth, okay? So I don't know where they live, but they were not part of Earth, they were not part of the collective consciousness of Earth, so they just, had their own other place. And so, these hybrid children are being created now. and they are the closest to human beings. And so one thing that I'm going to tell you about that I'm going to explain about later, that is going to shock you. These children, okay, are being kept as children. They are using aging technology, like the aging technology or whatever technique, to maintain those children and babies at the age of a child and not let them grow up to the adulthood, basically, or maximum teenage, but no adulthood. And you probably are shocked, like, why? It's not surprising. It's because of their passive invasive agenda, and I'm going to explain you why and how. Their agenda, their narrative involves that these children specifically that are created just recently, or for years also, they are preparing themselves to get to be introduced in Earth civilization, in Earth society, to eventually blend with our society, to land, from the great ships, to reunite with their parents, to be raised by their human parents, to live in their house, to, be raised by them, be taken care by them, to blend with our society, and then when they have now reached adulthood and they can reproduce, to intersperse with us to create the ultimate hybrid race. The last step of the process of this freaking dysgenic, terrible, invasive agenda. You will now understand why I said this, why it is not surprising that they are keeping these children as children and not letting them grow into adulthood. Well, they even admitted themselves through the channel, through this channel, Darryl Anka, who channels Bashar, the being that I talked about before, that says all these things and narrates all these things and shares away this information. They even admitted themselves. They said that they are keeping them as children so that when they supposedly reunite with their parents, the parents don't reject them because they will be adults, and they feel like an emotional connection. They will feel like, like a connection, like, mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy, I love you so much. You know what I mean? With those cute eyes and that kind of like young face and cuteness and like, mommy, daddy, kind of thing. Exactly that. So that they will inflict emotional manipulation so that the parents won't reject massively the children and say, you're not my children. Get the fuck off here. But rather, they will say, oh, how cute. This is my child. Oh, how sweet. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to raise it. It's so cute. Pure baby, poor child. I'm going to raise it. And that's how they get inserted in our civilization. Because the parents will feel emotional compassion because they're young and small. And this is fucked up. This is a straight away. They admitted themselves that they do it so that they wouldn't be protected, basically. They're basically just psychopathic master manipulators, like sociopaths. Jesus Christ. So, if you haven't noticed already, you haven't realized this ultimate step of the great hybrid narrative that will involve that these children will eventually intersperse with us and create another hybrid species that will be called whatever shit. I don't remember. I don't care. It will mean the extinction of humanity as we know it. Us. It will mean that we will not naturally evolve organically into organic timelines, but rather into dysgenic, interfered, invasive timelines in which they are basically replacing us, because the mix between our species and their species will literally mean that we'll create a species, another total, completely different hybrid species that will no longer be our collective consciousness. It will no longer be humans. It will not be an evolved version of humans, which is our destiny. It is what we deserve. It's our planet. It's our evolution. It will be another species. Simple. And that is why they were creating generations of hybrids, that each one of them will be closer and closer and closer to us genetically. Because the closer they are to our collective consciousness, the better, the more passive, more softly, slowly, passively, they can get towards that point, towards that ultimate step in their narrative, in their selfish agenda. Because the more genetically close is one individual, the more, the less interference it is considered, So that's why they need a generation of hybrids that are the closest to humanity possible. And that is bidirectional. That is bidirectional or bidirectional, I don't know. They are not only creating this very lookalike hybrid children that are very close to our genetics, so that they can slip them, slowly and passively and without breaking so much the law of no interference by manipulation, by twisting, by by trying to manipulate the parents to accept them, to all these different things. But also, they are infusing genetics in the abductees, in the parents of those children, with the DNA of the hybrid children that they created from their own DNA. Why? To create a quantum entanglement, to create more genetic bonding, to create more genetic affiliation in terms of, because genetics are frequency patterns. It's a program. It's all about frequency patterns. It's a program. So the more of those frequency patterns, that signature frequency, that genetic information that you contain about one being, one species, the more that they're able to manifest themselves in your reality and project towards you psychic energy and project towards you energy in general and co-create with you in general too. So it's another way that they are passively manipulating us and trying to invade us. So this is very fucked up, as you can see, but it goes so much deeper than that. Bashar has recently had a lot of fans lost because he's a person that you cannot question. First of all, I'm gonna tell my story in another video because this is actually getting very long. So, but basically, Bashar is a very, very disgusting personality. Okay, I'm not gonna be nice because he's not nice, and because I haven't had positive experiences with him. Bashar is not a positive personality. He is a very great public personality in the UFO community. He has lots of followers, and he shares glorious teachings that reaches people's hearts, and I believe that's fine. But then again, what I said, people put him into that pedestal and give him the power that he does not deserve, because he abused that power. So first of all, one of the first negative things about Bashar is that he is a terrible personality. He is a person that you cannot question, you cannot you cannot contradict, you cannot basically any of those things, or for example, someone questioned him, someone questioned the hybrid narrative, and he became very he became very authoritative. He became very serious and wanted to kind of impose himself into a very authoritative form or manner. And so he became very rude and very straightforward and started to say blah 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 blah. And it was like, hey mate, what do you have against a person who's questioning your narrative? What? We can question a narrative that it's basically just involving invasion and our own evolution and our own planets and our own genetics, our own women and our own reproductive organs. We cannot question it, mate. You're gonna come towards us in the scenario, in the throne that you put yourself on, and basically just act like that in those manners, authoritative, rude, mean. What kind of authority you have? First of all, you're no one from here. You're not from Earth. The hybrid narrative is an agenda. It has nothing to do with us necessarily. Who invited you? First of all, that's one of the things that I want to highlight. First of all, who invited the hybrid children? Who invited them? Okay, I will go there in another part of the video, but he just comes off as very straightforward, but in a way that is very mean, in a way that he's just very rude. He is if you see I've watched many thousands of his channels, and I can tell you, I'm not coming from anger or projections. It's true. Many people admit it. Even his own fans admits that they perceive these manners from him. And so it was very shocking that he will become like this when someone will question the narrative, and it makes you question. It makes you question even more. They get angry when you question the narrative. Why? Because at the end of the day, they know that we can say no to it, that we can decline the offer of the hybrid narrative, and that it is not our responsibility that they want Earth and that they want to replace us with another hybrid bullshit. No. We want our organic timeline. We want our own evolution. We want our own planet. We don't want to interfere with us. We don't want you in our civilization. We don't want to raise you. We don't want any of that shit. Necessarily, because there's people who want it, and that's okay. Fine for them. Create that in your reality. I'm not gonna go there. But you know what I mean? It is not imposed. It is not a mandatory thing. So why do you become angry when you're questioning the narrative? Because this is something that you'll notice. He will share the narrative of the hybrids as if it was a fixed event in the future. And this is something that is a very important red flag to point here. He shares the narrative as a fixed event, inevitable event in the future that we're moving towards, and that it is going to happen no matter what, and that it is what it is, and that we're all co-creating in it, and that there's nothing that we can do about it because it's what we agreed on a higher level, and that's it. First, red flag. Second, because the first one is, why do you get angry when you get a question about your narrative and your agendas? Second one, why do you claim this agenda or this narrative as an inevitable event or fixed event in the future when it's not true? He shares it as if it was fixed in time. He says, and then this will happen, and then the children will do this, and in a very authoritative way, never like, well, maybe, no. He always uses the verb will, okay? He always says, and then this will happen, and then this will happen, and then this will happen, and we will do this, and they will do that, and they will be, and this was how it will be done. He says, like, he narrates like this, as if it was a fixed narrative that is already, like, fixed, manifested, and inevitable. No, we have free will, we have free choice. Nobody said that. Nobody said yes to it on a collective perspective, on a massive scale yet. Because not even more than the 3% of people are even awake and aware. So how the heck are you pretending that it is something that we agreed already? And they say always the same excuse. Well, you agreed on it on a higher level. Lie. I mean, truth, but lie. And I'm going to explain you why. This is a third red flag. They always say that we agreed on it on a high level. First of all things that happen in our life are agreed on a higher level. And that involves rape, being robbed, being killed, being hit in the face, being assaulted, being shot in the face, being a terrorist attack, I don't know, a war, everything. Being kissed, being hugged, whatever. So, if everything, positive or negative, is agreed on a higher level, why are you coming towards us with that excuse? Because that it is agreed on a higher level doesn't mean that it is okay. Or that doesn't mean that we agree with it, or that we kind of like approve it. Or that we no. Most of us has put boundaries against you and your hybrid grey children narrative agendas and mostly grey abductions scenarios. Thousands of people are putting boundaries and saying no and canceling agreements and saying, I don't want to be part of this. So why you're keeping that stupid excuse? You agree on a higher level. Okay, I'm going to steal your TV. I'm going to hit you in the face. And then I'm going to get your wallet too. And your watch. Because it's a Rolex. And I'm going to say, well, you agreed on it on a higher level. How stupid is that? How primitive is that thinking? They just fool humans because humans are so desperate for ETs, for ET contact. And they put ETs on the pedestal so they believe and agree with everything they say, to the degree that they're basically giving away their race, their evolution, their planet, their free will, everything. Basically. And I say this because some people have put boundaries and say, I don't agree with this. I don't want this anymore. I don't want more grey abductions or more grey children created from me. And guess what? They continue doing it and saying, well, you agree on a higher level. And you will say, well, it makes sense, yeah, because the higher levels are not the lower levels. Lie. This is, let me think that word. I don't have a word for that, but this is a very common misunderstanding. Okay? A very common misunderstanding. The higher levels are not separated from the lower levels. They are intersected because it is a fractal system, and fractals are basically harmonics of frequency that are subdivided up to the infinitum, up to whatever level in terms of harmonics, and then into lower levels, etc. So basically, it is a bit, again that word, bidirectional or bidirectional system in terms of dynamics, which means that the higher self gives you information and you give them information. So for example, if you create an experience in which you are getting insulted and you don't want to be insulted or whatever, bullied or whatever, and you say, I don't want to experience this, okay? This is not what I prefer. You have created that on a high level. But you saying that you don't want to create that experience, you having the opinion and the non-preference of that, of creating that. You have the opinion that you don't prefer it. It is also coming from the higher levels. Because one thing doesn't take the other thing away. Everything comes from the higher levels. Everything comes from source. Because it's an integral. What is the definition of an integral? It integrates everything. And look at the structure of a fractal, okay? The principal harmonic, which will be the higher self, is the biggest. Is the one that, in terms of a space, it contains all the smaller subdivisions of itself. Which means that it integrates them. So, there's no separation. There's only an intersection of realities of consciousness that are bidirectional, that are exchanging information and communicating in bidirectional ways. As above, so below in other ways. So, if you say, I don't want this, your higher self might be recreating the experience of getting abducted again by the Grace, only for purposes of learning how to, defend yourself, or cut cords, or break agreements, or put boundaries out, or, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't mean that it's making it because it's meant to be in terms of like, I want this. Your higher self, if you, from this level, you don't want it, your higher self, it means that your higher self doesn't want it neither. It's just that it's recreating it because it's facing a karmic cycle of energy that needs to be resolved, that contains that construct of experience, of conflict with that idea in between. And that is why you are creating that. Still co-creating that, but not because you are forced to, or it's mandatory by the universe or whomever. So let's continue forward. So this Grace, so this Bashar, okay, is a very terrible personality again, gets very authoritative, gets very, he has a lot of narcissistic, like, personality traits, like a lot of, like, narcissistic traits, okay? You can notice it pretty easily from his events and his channeling sessions. It doesn't mean that he's all bad. No, nobody is all bad and negative. But he has, this is a video criticizing him specifically, so I'm not going to talk about the positive. So, and I didn't have positive experiences at the end of the day, so I don't have anything positive to say. So I don't want to sound like a very tough critic. It's just that this is where I'm coming from. And when I share my testimony about my experience with them, you will understand further, okay? So, there is a thing that is a very strong red flag too, that it has to do with the community itself, not just now with the beings themselves, but the community here on Earth. And it's that you can question them neither. You can question him, not only directly, because he will get angry and authoritative and start to manipulate and kind of like just, pull the conversation into one direction, so that, do some sort of like manipulation, so that it will sound as if he was right and you're wrong, and, whatever. It will also be that he has a very active group in Facebook, which is called Bashar Channeling or something, that has administrators, okay? That basically just, they just administrate the group, basically, and they just oversee the channel, and they're just working there as managers or what. So basically, you cannot even question him indirectly. But not even if you're not doing it in a negative way or in a very aggressive or tough way, like peacefully. Once I try to question the narrative and say, hey, what if we have another option of evolving, which does not involve the grey hybrid agenda or the grey hybrids or this narrative? What if we have a different option for us? What if we don't want them here? And guess what? They deleted my request for posting that question in the group. They didn't let me question it. And this is not the only case. There has been many cases like this from many different accounts, many different other people that has reached out to me and told me, this is my experience, I also have this going on. So, okay, they don't let discussions, they just don't let us have a safe space to discuss, not argue, but discuss, like, the many different possibilities in this universe, in this planet, in this, here now moment. No, we just have to accept the rules and follow the Bashar narrative. If you don't follow the Bashar narrative, they delete your post, they don't let you post your content or your question or your information, whatever, and you're probably banned. So that's fucked up. The fifth or the sixth red flag. So Bashar has never been at the beginning of his channelings, he's never been a political person, like any channel should be, in my opinion. I mean, not necessarily that you can't talk about politics, because we need to talk about politics, because basically it's an aspect of our consciousness and civilization that matters, But when it comes to channeling, if you self-proclaim yourself a neutral, being that doesn't have an agenda and that is not even from this planet, don't start imposing passively your ideologies on this planet, okay? By saying who to vote and who not to vote. So what he basically said to my friend, personally, in one private session, is that Trump in US elections was not like the choice that was more aligned with this hybrid narrative, and that it was taking us down the path of the grace, which is, the path in which we destroy ourselves, we become dysgenic, we start to cut the human part of us, we destroy our planet, ecosystems, etc. That's the path of the grace. So he said that to my friend in a private session, and I had the recording. And he also said publicly, I think, in general, that Trump was, again, the same thing, that Trump was getting us down the path of the grace, and that if we would vote that party, we would go down that path of the grace and destroy ourselves, and boom. And then he'll say that if you will vote Biden, that voting Biden will be more aligned with the hybrid timeline, which is the great hybrid narrative, that will accelerate the possibility of them manifesting themselves on Earth. Okay, I'm not even American, okay? So my opinion here, my words, my take on this is not about politics, okay? Don't take me wrong. I'm not biased here. I'm just saying that it is so fucking wrong that a species is telling us who to vote and who not to vote. Because I can tell you that each party has positive aspects and negative aspects. That's the thing. And I'm not even American, but I know this. But saying that one is the right one and the other one is the negative one is being biased, and it's imposing ideologies passively. And it is manipulative, and it is fucked up. And it is a huge red flag here. And I know the reason why he said that voting Biden was more in line with the gray hybrids, etc. And it's a very long story that I don't know if I will even go deep into that, not because of time, but because of how much exopolitics there is in them. But basically, summarizing it, so these people that run the Democratic Party, let me just take a moment, okay? These people that run the Democratic Party, that you know that is generational, okay? You have to be part of a very specific Anunnaki lineage, Masonic lineage, whatever, military lineage, whatever, to be part of these, to represent as a government person of this party. These people were the ones who in 19-something, and I don't know the exact year, were the ones who made the actual agreements with, I think it was Eisenhower, made the actual agreements with the Greys in which they will basically give them the permission to abduct humans, and our women specifically, to harvest their eggs, their genetics, and create these hybrid babies experiments. And so that's the first connection to that party, why they are so biased to that party, because they are the ones who, when they were ruling, who were in the position of power when they were making this decision of creating the gray hybrid scenarios. And so since then they agreed, they were the government party who started to make more than one agreement with them because they found interest in the technology that these ETs had. So they started to make treaties. So for example, the treaty will be, we will help you out in terms of, in our government, we will defend you, we will defend your narrative, but in exchange you will give us these technologies. We will give you human DNA, but in exchange we will give us these technologies, or this contract, or this thing, that. And so that is one reason why they're so biased with this political party. And again, it's not about politics from my side. I don't say this or the other one. I don't say blue or red, but I'm just saying that it is wrong what they're doing, okay? The other reason of why they're so biased with this political party gets more political, and it's something that I don't prefer to do, but I need to do. The Greys are a hive-minded mentality. When they cut out their human parts, their human genetics, their connection with their human nature, their human essence, their emotional bodies, and their sexuality, they cut out the 80% of their identity, if not 90 or 100%. They became gray. It's not a coincidence. It is synchronistically. They became gray. They became identityless. They lost their identity by destroying their gender idea, their country, nation, etc., blah, 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 culture, everything, everything. So they're a very hive-minded collective. And for that reason, their government system is basically a communist regime, okay? There is a queen bee. It's not that there is tyranny necessarily. I don't know much about the Grey civilization on those matters in politics, but what I know is that they work in communism. They live in communism. I don't know if there is a tyrannical queen bee that has all the power, like in North Korea or something, but there is definitely a hive-minded mentality for that matter, because they have no identity, because they disconnected from all of their identity all over in their civilization. So they are very, very biased with the idea of communism. And I had an experience, a my life experience, because you know that I'm in connection with positive secret space program alliances, in which when I was abducted one day and I was contacted by one military positive group, they told me that the Greys were actually helping the Russians in the World War, were helping the Russians with the idea of imposing the communist regime in the past centuries, and that they were also helping the Russians in the Cold War against America. So that's another side note, the information that might interest you. And the hybrids, because of this gray DNA mixture they have, they want pretty much the same, very similar things. I'm not saying that they want a communist regime or what, but they have a very, very Marxist ideologies, very communist-like ideologies too. So that's why they are very biased to the government of the Democrats, because they are the closest to that, the leftists. So they are pretty much... they pretty much say that. They said that voting Biden will be more aligned with their timeline, and they will land faster on Earth if they will vote Biden. And it is fucked up, okay? Not because of the ideology itself, that I'm not going to talk about that, okay? I'm talking about, I don't like communism, I hate communism, but that's not my point here. My point here is that it's fucked up, that they are trying to impose their ideologies. They're trying to like get into our politics and tell us who to vote, and that they actually have allies with that government. They have agreements with the deep state governments of the left. We know this. They are the ones, again, they are the ones who made agreements with the Greys for the first time to give them permission to abduct humans all around the world, massively, to harvest their genetics. So it is not a surprise, but it is fucked up that they are like, biased and trying to impose that to get what they want in a selfish way. And then the seventh red flag that is the most fucked up. So Bashar recently was asked about masks and the pandemic and vaccines. So Bashar was asked recently about the pandemic and about masks and about the BEXX. And I'm not gonna say the word because I don't want YouTube to do something bad to my channel or what. I don't know. So he was asked about that, and surprise, he promotes them. He defended the BAXX. He said that they were not toxic, and that they will not do no harm to the human body, and people were shocked. In fact, he lost many followers up from that, because it is very fucked up to defend such transhuman experiment. Because I think it's unhuman and transhuman. I just think we all know that it is obviously like a freaking terrible agenda from the deep state. So if he promotes it and he defends the BAXX, it tells you everything. It confirms you what I told you, that he's connected with the deep state governments because they have treaties and agreements. Okay, we defend you on this part when you come, not when they come, because they're not going to come. They just try to impose that idea. But if you want to come, we will defend you, against the people, and we will tell them to calm down and that you're positive and that you come in peace and love, and we will try to convince them to accept you and blah, 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 blah. But you have to defend the BAXX. You have to say that to vote us, you blah, 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 all these things. So he promoting that is just the biggest flag ever, I would say. The biggest. So yes, there are many, many, many more fucked up things with the gray hybrid narrative, but that has to do with my testimony that I'm not going to share right now because it's a long enough video, so I think I'm gonna leave it just there. But first I want to finish this video this way. This is a case that is very easily observed as a pretty classical case in which humans, are so desperate for easy contact, are so desperate for ETs, that they put them into pedestals. They give them a lot of power. They become sheeps. They become parrots. Literally all of their followers parrot their words like crazy. They just give you, they're the worst kind of people and the worst kind of trolls. If you get to have any argument with them, just leave, run, they will just chase you with, no, because it's your belief system, because it's a projection of your own belief system, blah, blah, blah. A lot of metaphysics that doesn't mean anything, because we all know metaphysics and we know all those teachings. We're already evolving. We don't need these genetic programs with polluted, I'm gonna say it, they're polluted beings. They are genetic devolution. They are devolution. They are not something positive. They're not eugenic. And that's just one thing. I don't even want eugenics. I don't think I even agree with eugenics. Not entirely, because I have been receiving genetics from positive ET beings, not in a way that is imposing their DNA with an agenda and with a narrative like the Greys, and not coming from ETs who are polluted, but are evolved. So I don't wholeheartedly, to 100% I'm against the idea of eugenics, just soft eugenics, very soft, intakes of genetics, just as the ones that we're given sometimes as energetic light codes in our DNA. That is okay, because it's not even eugenics. It's not. It's just, it's just a little bit of help, of nurturing our DNA with more of a exchange of information, with more positive, higher frequency information. But the gray hybrid agenda is dysgenic. It is mixing with people who are polluted and who are imposing their genetics by raping people, forcing people into abductions, into harvesting, into giving birth, into delivering, into labor, into working for them, into breeding, into with manipulation, with things that are twisted, with narratives that are manipulated and programmed into our consciousness, so that we believe that there's no other way for us to go forward in evolution, so that they can pretty much manifest themselves here easier. So as you can see, my final message is that you understand that this is a big problem, okay? And there's many people out there being very programmed, telling humans in presentations that we need the gray hybrid programs because it's a big upgrade for humanity. How in the heck is that a thing? How in the heck is a big upgrade? First of all, who invited them on a massive scale? Who said yes to them? Not even more than 2% of the population of humanity is awakened. Not more than 1% of the population of that awakened people is aware of the Grey Hybrid programs or their participation in the Grey Hybrid programs. And not more than that, a smaller percentage is okay with the program or with the narrative. So what about the rest of humans? Who said, when we did on a conscious, collective way, invited them to our planet, to land on our planet, to take our genetics, to create these babies, and to just basically try to impose this fucked up narrative. What the heck? Who said yes to this transhuman bullshit genetic polluted agenda? No one. Just a smaller percentage. So that's the point. Please, don't get programmed. Don't get manipulated. There's many people out there trying to program you with this because they are programmed they are taken in these programs and they are being taught this information and they're being sent as trained horses to teach you this so that you get convinced of all these things. That it is an outbreak to humanity, that you need to accept them, that it is a fixed event in the future, that is an inevitable. And another thing that is being said is that we need hybridization in order to survive and get into the next level of evolution. No. We are hybrid species. We were created with Anunnaki and hominid species with not more, but exactly 22 different ET species. We are hybrid species. And we have been through many genetic iterations and experiments already. Yes, we are hybrids. But many times we have evolved in a way that was not with genetic iterations. Because genetic iterations does not equal evolution. It just means a different direction. It just means manipulation. Manipulation is not evolution. Okay? I'm not saying that all hybridizations are negative. I'm just saying that it is not that equal, representation of evolution. It's just one change in directionality in terms of genetics and its path across the universe. But it doesn't mean, it does not equal one thing to another. A hybrid program, is an agenda for a purpose, period. Evolution is a constant of the universe that passes through all of us continuously, that we walk through, all of us, at the same time, at the same pace. In general, evolution, we're always evolving. So, and we naturally evolve. The sun, specifically, is giving us upgrades. There is a great solar flare right now. And this solar flare, what it's giving us is that in its sun rays, there is very specific light codes of information, light codes encrypted in its light waves, in its waveforms, that when they reach the atmosphere, the magnetic torus system, electromagnetic system of Earth, and its beings, its ecosystems, its thousands of species, of many different densities, and other planets too. It is informing and nurturing their genetics with information about what are the next upgrades in terms of evolution for this solar system. It is enriching us with that information to upgrade our DNA with more higher frequency information, to know what is the next step in evolution. So we do not need hybridization. It is an option, but it is not a need, as many people are saying out there in presentations. Like, truly there's people saying, we need more hybridization because otherwise the matrix will not sustain itself. We always need to hybridize. That is disinformation, and I don't want to throw shade at anyone. I respect everyone. Everyone gets to believe what they wish, but please, and I tell this to you, don't get fooled by these claims. It is misinformation. It is not true. We don't need hybridization in order to continue evolution or sustain the matrix. No, that is not true, and I'm going to explain you why. And this has to do with the information that my star family actually granted me when I started separating from the Grey Hybrid programs, because I was a pro-Grey Hybrid program, and I will tell that in my testimony. And I will tell you now the information that I was giving my star family that they gave me when I started to disconnect from these genetic agendas. And it is that our civilization, our species, the human species, were designed in a way that it will be, let's say, that its lifespan will be a great giant cycle of evolution, composed of smaller 7 cycles of evolution within itself. And this is the picture that I'm going to show you here. First cycle of energy of evolution, the Polarians, then the Hyperboreans, then Atlanteans, then Lemurians, then Aryans, and then the next race, the 6th race, is the coming race. Is the next race that we are becoming, the new humanity, the new Earth, our future, our natural organic timeline. And we contain this information within our own DNA. Which information I'm talking about? The information of how to get to that point of becoming the 6th race. Because all of this information that we have been given by these Anunnaki and different extraterrestrial beings that design us, passed this information, and it was recycled, cycle after cycle of evolution. From the beginning, from the very first ones to the last ones. So all of this information coming from our ancestors is within us. It hasn't been lost. It's within us. And it contains information of how to actually become the new species, the new human race. the sixth human race. Naturally, without more genetic iterations, transhumanists, dysgenic agendas, etc. bullshit. Naturally, us. Not another race to replace us. Not another ultimate hybrid bullshit agenda race to replace us. No. No. The new humans. Us. But in an evolved format. We will become again what we used to be in the past, which is superhuman. We have the capacity to heal all the karma that we have generated and recycled over the times since the fall of Atlantis and other civilizations, and since the deluge and all those events that were extraterrestrial manipulations and unnatural causes, and that is something that I will talk about in another video. We have the capacity, and it is all stored within our DNA, to become again that amazing race of superhumans that we were in the past. They are our ancestors. We are their descendants, and we contain their genetic codes, their wisdom, their knowledge, their powers, their abilities, their love, their light, their higher consciousness, everything. And it will be awakened, and we are amidst the process of awakening. We are becoming the new human, and we don't need these genic beings, these genic agendas to manipulate us, to replace us, and to basically steal our planet and evolution. Not this time. So please, don't engage with these masters, sociopathic manipulators. And stay tuned, because this is just the cherry on top, the cake, okay? Or the frosting, okay? This is not the cake itself. The cake itself of the things that I wanted to expose of the great hybrid agendas will be coming in my next video, in which I will share with you my testimony of what they did to me, how they attacked me, how they target me, and how I almost passed away and died because of them. What was the conflict about, and how fucked up they are. Because they present themselves as very innocent beings, very positive, love and light, they come in peace. Of course they want to be presented like that so that we accept them. But that is not the truth. The truth is not that it's not even that they are a passive invasion. They have reached the point to become a hostile invasion because of testimonies, experiences like mine, and many others that reach out to me telling me that they experience very similar things. So stay tuned to my next video, in which I will expose them finally, and I will share away my deep testimony against them. And I hope you liked the video, that it wasn't so long. I think it's a very long video already, but it's because I had a lot to say. And I think it's fair because I was absent for a lot of time. So, also I wanted to thank you for giving so much love to my recent interviews with Linda Moulton Howe and with Rimbel35. So stay tuned if you're interested to know about my testimony. Thanks for watching. Give it a like if you like the video. Subscribe if you're new, you wish to know more about me, and hope to see you in my next video.